Ignored the voice and accelerated. Not the first time I heard this voice. I hear this amazing voice today. Mine was a violent and brutal home. There was always a voice to console and talk to me while I was beaten, punished, or imprisoned. When I'm upset, need something, or have an important event, I hear this voice. I'm not seeking pity. I considered myself normal since I assumed every youngster had my home situation. This voice has reassured and warned me of impending events. I didn't consider it till I was older. Recall the accident. I ignored the voice. I sped up to jump instead of slowing. I wanted to jump farther than ever. A rut at the top of the jump appeared before I struck it. The rut forced me to lose control. The front of the motorcycle dropped nose down, while the back flipped sideways in midair. I came short of clearing the second jump. I was not able to restore control of the bike before landing. I landed head first on the side of the second jump. When unconscious, there were two males who saw the accident. They were behind me, going at a considerably slower speed. They both saw me hit the leap, generating a massive cloud of dust. When I reached the ground, they spotted me approximately 5 feet above the dust in an upside-down attitude and flying through the air. Then I disappeared as I sank back into the cloud of dust. They indicated that they were terrified to get up to me, so they halted around 50 yards away from me. They observed for a couple of minutes and saw no movement coming from me. They had a talk between themselves and decided to come closer. They stopped approximately 15 feet from me, got off their motorcycle, and stood there looking at me, hesitant to come too close. They were scared I was dead, since they could not see any movement or breathing from me. After a few words between them, one of them moved further closer and still detected no movement or signs of life from me. All of a sudden, he saw me take a really deep breath and gently open my eyes. They later told me that this took around 5 minutes or so altogether from the time I wrecked until they observed me take a breath. I was not wearing a helmet that day because I was just out playing on the motorcycle. After all, it was not a race or anything. When I saw the ground speeding up at me and hit head first, everything went black for a moment. I could kind of hear and feel my heart thumping for a moment. Then I opened my eyes and stood up. To my horror, I was standing there staring at myself lying there all twisted up on the ground. I suddenly heard that familiar voice, the one I had always heard behind me, pronounce the words, "Hurry, we must go." I instantly whirled around. For the first time, I saw the individual that the voice had always originated from. This individual can only be characterized as what must be an angel. This angel was about the size of a 5 or 6-year-old girl, yet she was very strong, forceful, and authoritative. I answered to her in disbelief. "What do you mean, we must go?" "Go where?" She continued in an urgent tone. "Hurry, we must go. The Dark Ones are coming." She then pointed to the west of where we were. About 50 feet away and approaching very swiftly were 3 plainly nasty, anguished black spirits heading towards me who wanted to take me with them. I had a notion that they were sent by Satan or some other demonic entity to take my spirit and seize it for him. They looked like they were tangled together and rolling around each other in a swirling pattern with a dark cloud encircling them that was floating just above the ground. They were clad in black robes and had pallid, soulless features with only sockets for eyes. I also realized that one of them symbolized sorrow and suffering, one of them seemed to be lost and locked in despair, and the third was just evil and focused on guiding the others to grab me. He was plainly in charge of the other two and had a superior stature. I gazed up at the angel, who was floating just above my head, as she extended her arm for me to grip onto her. She was clad in a robe-like garment and what appeared like a golden crown on her head. As we held one another's wrist, she began flying upward. I looked down and spotted the 2 people who watched my wreck. I also saw the Dark Ones gathered around my body, and they were quite angry and disturbed because they had failed to get me. As the angel and I flew upward, I noticed the earth become smaller and smaller. We then traveled into deep space and accelerated faster and faster until the Earth disappeared. We passed by many, many stars and planets so swiftly that they seemed like a blur. I began to gaze upward towards the direction we were headed. This was quite tough because of the speed at which we were driving required all the muscle I had in my neck to raise my head upwards. The stars and planets were rushing by so fast that the light reflected off of them made it appear as though we were going through a tunnel of light. Finally, we arrived at a point that was like we had passed through a threshold or barrier to access it. It was like a bright golden cloudy region that was suspended in space and illuminated with a pleasant, comfortable light. The vibe I felt there was just lovely. There was no warmth or cold, no pain or discomfort, no hunger or thirst, and no want or need for anything. I experienced a feeling of the most overpowering love that seemed to start, radiate out, and saturate the whole room. This property was as lovely as you can ever dream. I believe this place was heaven. The angel raised me up to the edge of it, where I had to grab onto and pull myself up. The angel remarked, "I have to go, there are others." This worried me since I felt alone in this strange environment. I looked over to my right, and there were two individuals standing at a pedestal with a book on it. The book would measure closed, roughly 2 feet tall, 18 inches broad, and 2 inches thick. The two at the podium seemed to know me, and at the moment, I knew them. I was told later in this encounter that I could not go back knowing what I know about things. So subsequently, I had a lot of the elements of my experience erased from my memory before I was sent back. One of the men stood staring over the shoulder of the one in front of him. It appeared like he was overseeing or instructing the one in front. The man in front glanced at me and questioned, "Why are you here?" I stared up at him with fear and anguish. I asked in a shaking voice, "What do you mean? Why am I here? Do you mean I am supposed to go down there?" As I was looking down and implying the location the Dark Ones wanted to send me, or hell was where they were proposing I should be. I must tell you that we did not speak in words during this whole encounter, but it was a subliminal language which I could comprehend and speak. For instance, I heard one word and an image beamed into my mind, and instantaneously had a thorough comprehension of a subject on earth. It could perhaps have taken hundreds of words for me to understand what was being communicated. I refer to them or them because everyone seemed to be of the same opinion and conclusion on everything. There was no disagreement there. They both chuckled and told me, No, it is not yet your time." I said, "What do you mean it is not yet my time?" They turned the book so I could see it, and they opened it up. I saw that there were 3 columns of names on each page of the book from top to bottom. The man in front pointed and scanned the page of the book they were referring to. They reiterated, "It is not yet your time. Here is today's time, and you are not listed here." Then he flipped back farther in the book until there was barely about 1/8 of an inch of pages remaining in the book, and stated, "This is your time," as they pointed at my name in the book. I had numerous notions at that time that I was intended to be in heaven close to the end of the time when names were to be written in the book. Maybe it was not the end of time, but just the end of names in the book. I understood that I was loved and I would be back. I told them, "But I am here now," and that I wanted to stay. They said, "You must go back. You are a part of God's plan. And if you stay here now, this is all there will be for you," as they pointed deeper into the place where I was. I answered, "What do you mean this is all there will be? Do you mean there is a place better than this one?" They replied, "It depends on your works on earth, but we cannot send you back." I questioned, "What do you mean I am a part of God's plan, and I must go back, and you cannot send me back?" They answered, "We will take you to God. He will know what to do." The two took me to a place where God was. He was sitting in a higher spot in heaven. As they raised me up towards him, I could see he was sitting Indian style with his knees crossed. He was clad in some off-white colored robes. God leaned down and put his hands down towards me as you would a young child that you were going to pick up. He said, "Come." I reached my hands up to him. He grabbed my hands in his, raised me up, and set me down in front of him. His hands were the largest, strongest, and roughest, but softest, warmest, and gentlest hands. I was terrified to look at him. He laughed and added, "You humans all have the same belief that you cannot look upon me. Your beliefs and your Bible are not completely correct or complete, but they are the best you have, and you must do the best you can with them." He looked to be quite happy with us. I cautiously looked up at him. He was incredibly enormous. I would guess around 10 feet tall. His hair and beard were a whitish gray, and he had a very attractive face. I was almost breathless. As I felt the weight of God's hand resting upon my head, a flood of sensations overwhelmed me. It was as though he could peer into the depths of my soul, discerning every deed, every emotion, every intention that had shaped my existence. There was no hiding from his gaze, no masking the truth of my being. In that divine presence I stood exposed, my past laid bare before the omniscient eye. God sifted through the tapestry of my life, examining the threads of goodness and folly woven into its fabric. He measured the weight of my actions, pondering the balance of virtue and vice that defined my journey. With solemn deliberation, he pronounced his judgment. "Yes, you are good." His words resonated within me, echoing the affirmation of my worthiness in his sight. Yet, even as he affirmed my goodness, he unveiled the contours of his grand design. In a vision unfurled before my eyes, I beheld the path that lay ahead, marked by trials and destinies intertwined. There, amidst the tapestry of fate, stood a figure, a younger version of myself, bearing the weight of my aged form in a wheelchair, guided by the steady hand of a son. The revelation struck me with a jolt of understanding. I was to be incapacitated, reliant upon the care of my progeny, a testament to the interconnectedness of our lives. But where was the boy's mother? I wondered aloud, only to receive a cryptic reply. "She has gone to the west." As the vision unfolded, I glimpsed the skeins of causality that bound us all, each action rippling outward like a stone cast into still waters. Every choice, every interaction, bore the potential to shape the course of destiny, cascading through time in a chain reaction of consequence. But even as I grappled with the weight of revelation, God beckoned me back to the realm of the living, a parting injunction echoing in the recesses of my mind. "You are a part of my plan," he declared, urging me to fulfill my role in the unfolding drama of existence. With a solemn vow, I pledged my obedience, though not without a plea for mercy. "Can you heal my neck?" I beseeched him, not for my own sake, but for the sake of my son, burdened by the prospect of caring for his ailing father. In his mercy, God granted my request, though not without a caveat. "You will not remember all that has transpired here," he cautioned, concealing the full extent of his divine purpose from mortal comprehension. And so, with a touch of his hand, he returned me to the realm of the living, my body reanimated by the spark of life. Yet, as consciousness reclaimed me, I found myself still bearing the burden of my mortal wounds, a reminder of the pact struck in the celestial realm. As I emerged from the abyss of unconsciousness, greeted by the light of day and the concerned faces of onlookers, I knew that my journey was far from over. In the throes of agony, I clung to the fragile thread of life, guided by a newfound sense of purpose. With the aid of strangers, I navigated the precarious path homeward, each moment a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. And as I stumbled into the embrace of medical care, I carried with me the echo of divine revelation, a guiding light in the darkness of uncertainty.